even though I do feel you're opportunist.
What do you think I'm getting out of it?
What you getting out of it? Cause let me tell you, ain't no river high enough, ain't no ocean deep enough, ain't no desert hot enough to keep me off your ass.
She didn't whisper it. She didn't hint at it. She said it straight to his face. And when a mother looks into a man's eyes and calls him an opportunist, that's not anger talking. That's instinct. Because this wasn't shade. This wasn't a housewives drama. This sounded like a warning that came too late. For years, viewers thought was just being bitter, just being controlling, just being the overprotective mom who couldn't let her daughter go. But after this divorce, every old clip suddenly hits differently. Every argument feels heavier. Every side looks intentional. Every comment sounds less like jealousy and more like foreshadowing, because this marriage didn't fall apart overnight. It fractured quietly, slowly, behind business deals, behind red carpets, behind smiles that didn't last long enough to reach the eyes. And now the truth is no longer hiding. Not in interviews, not in body language, not in what Mama Joyce refused to take back. What if the one person everyone called toxic was actually the only one who saw it coming? Tonight, we're not retelling a divorce. We're uncovering what really happened when a mother tried to warn her daughter and no one listened. I've now known Mama Joyce for 12 years, or more. But has she changed over the years? She has not. No, she has not. She has not. She actually called me and told me to stop singing on my Instagram. She said, "Stop singing." Really? You're causing a lot of friction. Yeah. Wow. So no, she hasn't changed. For years, fans argued about Mama Joyce. Some called her controlling. Some called her cruel. Some said she was just another reality TV mother who couldn't let go. But behind the screaming matches, the tears, the infamous dinner table blow-ups, there was always one message she never changed. Todd Tucker was not the man she wanted near her daughter. While the world watched Kandi Burruss build an empire, while the cameras followed her success across stages, studios, and boardrooms, all Mama Joyce ever focused on was the man standing beside her. And from day one, she didn't trust him. When Todd entered Kandi's life, he wasn't just introduced as a boyfriend. He walked in as a producer, a man with access, a man with proximity, a man who knew exactly how celebrity relationships worked from behind the camera. To most viewers, it seemed romantic. A behind-the-scenes worker falling for the star, it felt like destiny. But to Mama Joyce, it looked like strategy. And somehow, long before blogs ever whispered the word divorce, long before fans noticed rings disappearing, Mama Joyce saw something she didn't like. Not in his smile, not in his charm, but in what he stopped doing. She noticed the ambition shifting, the effort slowing, the direction changing. To her, Todd wasn't building toward Kandi. He was orbiting her. And in Mama Joyce's world, that was not love. That was danger. The tension never stayed behind closed doors. It exploded in front of cameras, in front of family, in front of viewers across the globe. Mama Joyce didn't dramatize her dislike. She declared it. She didn't sugarcoat it. She weaponized it. In her eyes, Todd didn't just disappoint her. He disqualified himself. And the most unsettling part, he never won her back. Not with time, not with marriage, not even with children. As the relationship grew, so did her resistance. Years passed, yet her position remained frozen in time. Still suspicious, still angry, still unmoved. And when you rewatch the footage today, knowing what you know now, the fights don't look chaotic, they look calculated. The outbursts don't feel random. They feel surgical. Because what once seemed like stubbornness now feels like surveillance. Mama Joyce never softened. She never adjusted. She never slipped. And as Kandi built a life with Todd, Mama Joyce built a wall against him. Privately, she pushed. Publicly, she burned bridges. And when she spoke with intent. "You speak very negative, my child." "Well, I sure do." "That's right." No hesitation, no cleanup. She said it and she owned it. That wasn't a mother venting. That was a verdict. It wasn't, "I'm hurt." It wasn't, "I'm worried." It was, "I do not respect you." Because here's what Mama Joyce never tried to hide. Her issue with Todd wasn't emotional. It was ideological. She didn't see him as a bad husband. She saw him as the wrong man, wrong energy, wrong intention, wrong position. In Mama Joyce's eyes, a man who truly loved Kandi would be building something independent of her shadow. A man who truly belonged beside her would be standing on his own. Not behind her, not underneath her, not feeding off her fame. And this belief followed them everywhere from homes to events to vacations. Always a spark, always a comment, always tension. And yet Kandi kept choosing him. Defense after defense, explanation after explanation. She stood between her husband and her mother for years. But even Kandi's loyalty had limits. Because while Mama Joyce attacked with words, real damage was happening quietly off camera behind the public image. Inside a marriage that was wearing thin in ways no Instagram post could hide. The headlines only saw success, but the cracks were personal. Old clips now show strain in Kandi's voice. Exhaustion behind the smiles. Moments where she tries to stay present, but emotionally distant. Not cold, just tired. And Todd, he started looking detached, comfortable, not desperate, not hungry, just settled in her success. And Mama Joyce, she noticed not because she was obsessed, because she watched patterns. She clocked silence. She read shifts. She understood quiet changes in relationships before the person inside them ever does. And she kept warning, not gently, not politely, relentlessly, which is why some now believe this divorce didn't surprise her. It confirmed her. In public, people called her toxic. In private, she stayed consistent. Everyone else evolved. She didn't. Everyone else hoped. She didn't. Everyone else believed. She didn't. Which raises the question no one wanted to ask before. What if Mama Joyce wasn't bitter? What if she was early? What if what we dismissed as chaos was actually clarity? Because years later, when everything collapsed, her stance didn't change. Her tone didn't soften. Her reaction didn't look shocked. It looked validated. And there's something eerie about one person holding the same position through arguments, through marriage, through children, through time, while everyone else slowly learns the truth. Mama Joyce never celebrated. She never apologized. She never walked anything back. She stayed right where she started, which is often where people end up when they were never wrong. This wasn't about grudges. This was about instincts. This wasn't about ego. It eroded slowly, quietly in places the cameras didn't always reach. By the time fans noticed anything wrong, the damage had already been done. Because while the public saw red carpets and birthday posts behind closed doors, two completely different lives were being lived. According to multiple entertainment sources and insiders close to production, the relationship between Kandi Burrus and Todd Tucker was no longer stable long before the divorce papers were filed. And when the news finally broke, TMZ didn't call it sudden. Kandi didn't call it sudden. They used one word instead, brewing. Meaning this wasn't an explosion. It was a leak that finally sank the ship. Old episodes now play differently. Fans began revisiting clips, pausing scenes, re-listening to arguments no one took seriously years ago, and suddenly Todd no longer looked confident. He looked overshadowed. In more than one interview, he hinted at feeling like he was living inside Kandi's shadow. Like her fame came with a ceiling he could never break. Like every move he made would always be measured against her success. Sources say Todd wanted space. Kandi wanted closeness. Todd wanted independence. Kandi wanted alignment. And that tension didn't stay emotional. It became behavioral. Those closest to the couple noticed changes. Less time together. More separate routines. Two grown adults moving under the same roof, but in different directions. Privately, resentment began showing its face. And publicly, things began getting uncomfortable. Arguments that should have stayed behind closed doors spilled into staff rooms. Production, interviews, camera hotspots, boundaries disappeared. Private problems became public content. And when that happens, relationships don't heal, they perform. But the deeper cracks were forming elsewhere. Because once distance enters a marriage, rumors follow. Online speculation exploded around alleged outside influences. Names fans began connecting. Moments people began dissecting. Timelines social media tried to piece together. One name repeatedly surfaced. Portia Williams. Not as fact, not as proof, but as rumor. Screenshots, old interactions, and side-by-side appearances became evidence in the court of public opinion. No confirmations, no admissions. But the internet doesn't wait for survival. It builds narratives faster than truth can catch up. And Portia wasn't the only name whispered. Another figure began appearing in discussions. Fatim Alfred. Fans noticed closeness, trips, energy shifts, inside jokes that didn't look casual. And then came the loudest rumor of all. Threesomes, open relationships, blurred boundaries masked as lifestyle choices. Once again, no proof, no confirmations, only whispers, but whispers backed by visual proximity become poison. And in celebrity marriages, perception destroys faster than reality. The public didn't know what was true, but they could feel something was off. And sometimes that's enough. Then comes the moment that, according to insiders, changed the private tone of the marriage forever. The prenuptial agreement, not just paperwork, a message reportedly delivered just days before the wedding, not months, not early planning, days. To Todd, according to people close to production, the timing felt like distrust, like preparation for exit before the vows were even spoken. And paperwork has weight that romance cannot outlift. That document allegedly never stopped haunting the marriage because prenups don't end relationships, but they often define them. They draw invisible lines. They create emotional accounts. They assign worth through legal ink. And for Todd, sources claim that document didn't protect the marriage. It haunted it. Then there's Todd Tucker, Todd's daughter, the one person in this story who had nothing to gain. And possibly everything to lose. Multiple insiders say the relationship between Kayla and Kandi was never warm, not explosive, just distant, uncomfortable, neutral in a house where neutrality felt like rejection. Kayla reportedly believed her father was being molded, controlled, that his career wasn't building, it was bending, that he no longer led his life. He followed someone else's. And from her point of view, he was walking away from who he used to be. Sources say Kayla viewed the marriage not as love, but as restriction. And when you add Mama Joyce to that equation, tension doesn't just rise. It multiplies because she didn't hide her feelings. She spoke them constantly. She called Todd an opportunist. She told Kandi he was after money. And worst of all, Kandi repeated it. According to close friends, those accusations didn't stay between mother and daughter. They crossed the marriage line. They entered conversations. They colored trust. When your spouse begins hearing the same accusation repeatedly from someone you love, it changes the air in the room. Trust suffocates. And at some point, resentment starts breathing on its own. The marriage didn't fail for one reason. It failed from a collision of many. Distance, doubt, family interference, career imbalance, control versus freedom, rumors of outsiders, silence where honesty should have been. And through it all, both stayed on camera, smiling, working, building. But emotionally, they were already gone. Which is why when the filing finally happened, it didn't feel chaotic. It felt inevitable. The whispers online stopped being speculation. They became post-mortem, and the world is now left with one hard truth. Sometimes marriages don't end in betrayal, they end in exhaustion. And by the time the public sees the damage, the people inside it have been bleeding silently for years. When the divorce finally became official, there was no dramatic courtroom walkout, no explosive public statement, no late-night confession video. Instead, there was silence. The kind of silence that doesn't calm, it confirms. Because in celebrity breakups, noise means chaos. But silence usually means something already died long ago. Kandi Burruss did not rush to explain herself. She didn't blame. She didn't hint. She didn't spill. She simply confirmed what everyone had already begun to feel. This marriage was over. And not suddenly, not impulsively, but quietly, slowly. After years of emotional attrition. In interviews, she used one phrase that refused to go away. It had been brewing, not breaking, brewing. A word that implies pressure beneath the surface. A storm you don't see until it arrives. And when fans went back through old footage, they saw it not in screaming matches, but in stillness. Eyes that didn't connect, conversations that never finished, smiles that paused too long before appearing. And then the biggest contrast. Kandi looked wounded. Todd looked composed, not cruel, not cold, just emotionally ahead, like someone who already finished grieving before the announcement ever reached the public. It triggered a question no one liked asking. Who emotionally checked out first? Sources close to production describe later filming as strained, long periods of emotional distance, minimal interaction, two people fulfilling obligations, but not each other. And the divorce did not produce fireworks. It produced a vacuum. Todd did not go live. Do you think Mama Joyce saw something no one else wanted to admit? Or did she become the pressure that finally cracked an already fragile marriage? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the truth isn't hidden in headlines. It's buried in perspective. And if you've made it this far, you're not here for noise. You're here for what's real. So subscribe not for drama, but for the stories behind the silence. We'll be here following the details others won't touch, asking the questions others are afraid to ask. Because when the cameras turn off, the truth doesn't. And neither do we.